What up, good people? Happy well, it's Monday now. It's Monday, August 12th, 2024. It's another day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Listen, invite your friends, share this out with your friends, tell them someday the student teacher zone. We talking conversation over cosmetics this morning. For some of you, it's still Sunday, August the 11th. For those of you Pacific Standard Time, Central Standard Time, not so much. Pacific Standard Time, it's still August the 11th. And for those of you who are West African time, Ghana time, the UK, God bless you guys for watching this. I always say this, my content is for now and for later. Some of you gonna watch it later and said I needed this now. And so we're talking about relationships with yourselves today, identifying toxic patterns in yourself, identifying toxic patterns in other people, and how it affects you both personally and professionally. So I'm gonna give you guys a second. Go and share this out really quick. I need to hop over there to get my mic really quick, but share this out really quick, tag some people, and then we about to hop in this because it's gonna be a good conversation tonight. So let me play this video. All right. We are back. So, guys, listen. And I shared this one time before that. I remember I used to have a friend who told me one time. She says the only reason why you be in your word, or you be studying, or what you know, is because it was your job. And I'm like, what? No. Some people will think that the only reason why you read the word, or you do a certain thing, is because of your job. But for me, when it comes to studying the word or reading this Bible and sharing it with you guys, it's not because I feel obligated to do it. It's because it helps me, and then I want to turn around and share with other people what I've learned. And so that's why I do it, and that's why I come out here to share with you guys, because it's been a blessing to me. And so I was in my Bible study time, and it really wasn't even Bible study. It was simply me uh um me reading. I think this was Friday maybe, and something that the Lord just shared, and I was like, yep, I needed to see that for myself. But because it was so good and it was so powerful, I said, you know what? I have to share it with other people, because I want to be able to bless you, and you may be able to resonate with it just like I was able to resonate with it. And so this is in 2 Samuel 12. For those of you who are maybe familiar with David, he's considered a man after God's own heart, but David had many, many wives. He had many, many concubines. He saw a woman one day. He wanted, took her, went and got with her. Sent one of his servants to go get her. So he didn't do it necessarily in secret. When it got her, came, slept with her. She got a baby. He was like, oh man, her husband is in part of the army with me. And I'm trying to send him home to sleep with her, because, she with child. And you know what I'm saying? If he sleep with her, he'll think it's his baby. And it was a whole plan and plot that he ended up having him put on the front lines of the war, Uriah, and he ended up being killed, right? A prophet came to do this parable to him to let him know that God knows what you did. You know what you did, but God is sending me as a reminder to let you know that there is a consequence for what you did. Unless it's the mercy of God, there is consequences to everything we do. And I know for me, sometimes you feel like, well, I don't see the consequence right now, so you just kind of hoping you're going to get by with it. And sometimes when the consequence comes, it's not the way you kind of prepared yourself for it, but it could be in other ways that really will break you down. That's why I always say, like, when it comes to people doing us wrong, do you know what I'm saying? Do we speak up and we speak our truth? Do we not allow people to take advantage of us or use us or mistreat us or do us wrong? But when you talk about vengeance, God says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. God knows how to get people back in a way that you could never think of. And so while we can sit and plot and plan, and I hope this happens to this person, I hope this happens to this person, people can even do things to make certain things happen in people's lives. But I promise you, God has a way of getting people back much, much greater, much, much deeper than we could ever get somebody back. And so I was reading. I kept reading. And this is the scripture that stood out to me personally, and I want to share with you guys and pray that it will free some of you. Not only just free some of you, but it will cause a level of repentance to come upon your heart, and start thinking about the decisions that you make and the choices that you make, so you will not fall into this category. And so here we are. This is 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 12 through 14. It says, "For thou didst it secretly," and this is Prophet Nathan telling David, "I know you didn't do it outwardly, and people didn't know what you was going on. Maybe your men, your servants that you had to go get her and put him on the front line and come up with this whole plot, they knew about it. But in the public eye, like for those of you, you are the public eye, right? Social media, y'all don't know me, right? People even around me, there's certain things that I don't share out what I got going on. I live a very private life. I like a very private life, right? Not gonna change that. But this is what he said. He says, for thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun." So God is saying, he told the prophet to tell David, you did this secretly, but what I'm going to do it in front of everybody. I'm going to do this publicly so all the people can see. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also have put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. So the importance, I love Psalms 51. I quote it often. Created me a clean heart, O God, renew a right spirit unto me. And David goes on to say, I have sinned against you and you alone, Lord. Sometimes our sins are not just against God. Sometimes our sins are with people. And sometimes we have to be able to go back and apologize and say, you know what? I didn't do this right. I didn't handle you right by that. I didn't treat you right in this situation. And I want to apologize. I said some things or did some things that was not right. So sometimes we have to physically go and apologize to people. And even if it doesn't mean that, the relationship is going to be back where it was, you can also, I would say free yourself and free other people by offering a sincere apology. And so he tells him that, yeah, you sinned against the Lord, but the Lord have put away your sin, that you're not going to die. Because the Bible says that the penalty for sin is death. And some of us think it's immediately. No, we're not immediately going to die, but there's a spiritual death that comes. And so he says, listen, he knows that, but you're not going to die, right? He's forgiving you. All is well. But guess what? There's some consequences that comes to this. And this is what it says in chapter 13. It says, and David said unto Nathan, 14, howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And it was like this scripture hit me with a ton of bricks that morning I read it. It says, howbeit by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. And I started thinking about, just certain things I've done in the last year, last couple months, that your life, the deeds, the things you do will cause enemies to blaspheme God. Oh, you say you serve the Lord? Oh, you say you go to church, or you say you do this in ministry, or you say, you know what I'm saying, you say, but your life, your action, the deeds, the things that you are doing is a great occasion for the enemies to blaspheme God. That's why it's very important that how we live our lives and how we model people who don't know the Lord or who are turned off by God, because sometimes we may really be the only God that they see, and our deeds and our action can cause people to blaspheme against God. And I was like, oh goodness. And I was repenting, and I was repenting, and I am sorry. And Father, don't let me, I pray that any um perception that cause people to blaspheme God because of my life, Father, forgive me. Let that not be a stumbling block for people. Father, forgive me. Let that not be a reason why people say they don't want church, or they don't want God, or they don't want a relationship with you. I pray that forgive me for allowing anything that I've done to cause enemies to blaspheme against you, any of my deeds, right? And I pray tonight that anything that you have done, I pray this morning, this year, tomorrow, the next day, whenever you see this, that you can find resolve in this, knowing that one, your sin, you won't die in your sin, you repent, God will forgive you, but also that you keep in mind and be very sober in your thinking and your actions, that I don't want my deeds, I don't want my actions, I don't want what I do to be a reason cause the enemy to blaspheme God. Don't let our life or our lifestyle or our thinking and our all the things that we do in our speech and the way we interact with people and the way that we treat people, don't allow that to be a reason for enemies to blaspheme the Lord. Hallelujah. And that's 2 Samuel verses 12 through 14. And of course, I gave you the prerequisite that led up to that, but I wanted to share that with you first because we're about to get into this message tonight. This is Conversation Over Cosmetics, talking about relationships. One, starting with relationship with yourself, relationship with the Lord, and then how that sprinkles off to having a relationship with other people. And so I'm finishing up the part 2 of what we started like a month and a half ago. We're going to have some really, really good episodes coming back with Conversation Over Cosmetics. We're going to have some really good brothers that's going to be up here with me doing some interviews with some good brothers to start off. And then we'll have some other guests that you'll start seeing matriculated in. But I want to make sure I get this out. I am currently doing a book study. I bought this book 2 months ago for one reason, but God has definitely used that for my own personal inner work and healing that I'm doing. And so it's a great read. I'm going to get to the book in a minute, but I'm going to go through this stuff with relationships, and then we're going to pick up with the book. And so, guys, when you sit before the Lord, when you talk to God, when you sit and pray, and some people are like, well, how do you do that? Just open up the Bible, just sit there and listen. Oh, say, God, speak to me. And he'll speak to you in all kinds of ways, through all kinds of things, right? It could be through TV, it could be through music, it could be through another person, it could be sitting online, but nothing takes the place of you actually having your own personal prayer time, and nothing takes the place of you having your own reading of the Bible time for yourself. And I never make apologies about who I serve. I never make apologies about, you know what I'm saying, my loyalty to Jesus. I never make a apology on reading the Bible, right? I do my very best to live it up to the best of my ability, right? And sometimes, flesh will get in the way, but I don't try to sugarcoat this and try to make it fit into the things that I want to do. I understand that when I make decisions that, hey, there is a consequence that comes with this. Hey, I understand that when I make good decisions that there's a reward that's attached to this, right? And so I'm always going to come from a biblical scriptural perspective, because that's what I know and understand. That's what and it wasn't because that's what I grew. Because some people say, oh, well, you grew up in the church and you grew up in a Christian home. I ain't necessarily grew up in the church, right? I went to church with my great grandmother up until middle school. And then my mom was taking me and put me in like usher. And I think I sung in the choir before, right? But it was not until I understood that I need to have my own personal relationship that I learned so much. And that's why I tell you guys, there are certain things that you don't have to fuss and fight with somebody about, because you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have actually lived this thing out. The things that I share about my experience with God, my faith in him, is because of the things I had to live out, that he showed me, that he taught me, that he groomed me for in my own personal life, my own personal experience. So it's no There's nothing that anybody can say to you that's ever going to take the place of you sitting down, you reading the word for yourself, you sitting down, you praying to God for yourself, just in a regular conversation as I'm talking right now. That's how you can sit and talk to your father. It's your father. And if you never had a good relationship or conversation with your father, ever known your father, or your father just was absent in your life, the same way you will have a conversation with your mother, or someone that you talk to, you go to your father like that. A father will listen to their child. Now, of course, it's not where you want to go and you want to be, I was gonna say disrespectful, but you can go and talk to your father, your heavenly father, in all transparency, vulnerability, brokenness, because he already knows. And so nothing will ever take the place there. So I want to share that before we get into this message. Hallelujah. So picking up from part 2, and then we're going to get up into the rest of this. So when it comes to relationships, qualify the attraction. Okay. Qualify the attraction. What does that mean? Understand why people are attracted to you. You got to understand why people are attracted to you. And then what are they attracted to? Are they attracted to your looks? Are they attracted to your intellect? Are they attracted to your physical appearance? Are they attracted to something on your body? Are they attracted to what you have suggested that you would give them, or what you told them you can give them? Are they attracted to the benefits of what it means to be with you, or to talk to you, or be seen with you, or to be in relations with you? What qualify the attraction? Why is this person attracted to me? And it's not just a romantic or intimate relationship, but it could be a ministry relationship. It could be a family dynamic relationship. It could be a friendship relationship. It could be business or professional relationship. Qualify the attraction. Why are people attracted to me? And what is it about me that draws them to me? Right? Everyone who is attracted to you is not qualified to be with you. There'll be some people that's attracted to you that does not qualify to be with you. I appreciate you want to talk to me. I appreciate the fact that you come to me for, X, Y, Z, but this dynamic will not work. And I appreciate it, but thank you so much. Right? Do you have to step outside of your character to satisfy the person, or keep these people who are attracted to you in your life? One of my declarations I wrote is that my husband will not be a enemy to my future. Who I decide to be with will not be an enemy to my future. And I would encourage you guys to write down things that are character based and not necessarily physically based. Now, I got all the physical attributes and what I'm looking for and all these things, right? But the character traits. The character traits. Whoever you decide to come into covenant with, whether it's friendships, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, that you don't want them to be an enemy to your future. You don't want them to be an enemy to your future. Do you have to violate your own boundaries to keep these people in your life? You have to qualify the attractions. Why are you in my life? Do I have to hide the fact that I love Jesus? Right? And if I do that, I'm not talking anybody that is uncomfortable with that, who don't like that, I'm not gonna talk to them anyway, right? But I'm using an example. Do you have to hide the fact that you do a certain thing, or that you move a certain way in order to keep this person in your life? Because if that's the case, then they really don't love you. If that's the case, they're not really there because they really like you, right? Qualify the attraction. Do you have to violate your own boundaries to talk to this person or be with this person? Like, we have to qualify the attractions. If you have had to participate in what we consider self-betrayal to appease the person you're with, or the person you want to be with, or the person that you're getting this attention from, the cost will never be worth the benefit of having them in your life. If you got to negate who you are as a person, if you got to negate your character traits, your integrity, your love for people, your desire to do what it is that you're doing so you can keep this person in your life, the benefits that you get from them would be so menial that you would turn into have resentment and hate for this person, because now you've given up something for somebody who can never fill those voids in your life. And one thing, I was listening to this really good podcast tonight, and what I'm learning, I've learned this, over time, is that I don't always share out, okay, but go follow this person, or this is what I'm watching, because I understand that there are people who listen to me. I understand that I do have influence, right? I understand that people will go follow somebody and reach out to somebody and start listening to somebody because they hear like, oh, well, the student teacher said this, oh, 7A mentioned this, right? So I'm vetting people before I say, hey, I watched this thing, or go share this, right? But I watched a podcast there about two beautiful women. They were talking about their experience. It's a godly platform, just sharing your experiences on how God has transformed your life and what he's doing in your life, and being open about your struggles and where you are currently. And these two beautiful women were talking about their divorce. One had been married, one had been divorced once. She had been married for 13 years. She had 3 children, and then the other one had been married. This is her third marriage, and she has a daughter from her first, I think it was her first marriage. And then she was talking about her relationship with, excuse me, her current husband, but she shared up until the point of these previous relationships where it was like the same patterns. And what we have to pray against is familiar spirits. I don't know, people, if you ever felt like this, it's like, man, it's different people, but the personalities are the very same, right? You could be looking at you can be standing in front of a person, but you're seeing somebody else, because the interactions that they have with the interactions that they show you, that y'all have with each other, the behaviors that you display, it's just like this other person. It's a familiar spirit. So what you have to do is you have to come against the familiar spirits in your life that does not get you the patterns or the results that you're actually looking for. We got to look at the patterns in our life, man. Like, what patterns in my life are bringing me good results, and then what patterns in my life are causing me to have terrible results, and it's not helping me. Because this is the thing. If we can identify the patterns that happen in our lives, we can break them, and then we can create a new habit and a new pattern that's going to yield us the results that we actually want. We have to grow into our emotions, right? If we are toddler or immature in our emotions, right, you're going to lose a good mate. You're going to lose a good spouse. You're going to lose a good friend. You're going to lose a good ministry partner, or a prayer partner, or family member. You will lose that if you are immature in your emotions, because your emotions will get the best of you, and sometimes it will cause you to act out of character, or cause you to react or act based on your emotion, not really logically thinking through things. And when you sit back, you're like, man, I messed it up. And I'm telling you guys this stuff from personal experience. So when it comes to us fighting and arguing with people, or arguing with, people that you're in a relationship with, like, the goal is to argue not so you can be right, not so you can be at odds with a person. And I used to I used to say this so much. Not argue so you can be at odds with somebody, not argue so you can be right with somebody, but argue so you guys can come to an agreement, right? I'm not fighting you, I'm fighting the issue. I value you too much. I love you too much. I honor you too much. I don't want to fight against you, but I want to fight against the problem, right? I want to come against the problem so we can come to an agreement on how we're going to get this thing done, how we can solve this problem, and we can keep moving forward, and how this problem can even be used so we can come closer together. We can have a better understanding of each other. We can actually use this so we don't some things we can look out for or avoid the next time. So the goal is to fight so you can be in agreement with each other. Fight so you can make sure you're staying together. Fight so you can be on one accord. Not fight so you guys can be at odds. Not fight so it's like, well, I knew you was whatever, right? Fight so you can keep the person in your life. Fight to be a stabilizer. Fight to be humble. Excuse me, there's a lot of things we can fight. Fight against pride, and fight against being prideful. Fight to be the protector and provider if you are the man. Fight to be the nurturer and the giver or the encourager as a woman. Fight. to be kind, fight to become more knowledgeable in the areas that you struggle in, fight to not be disrespectful or belittle your spouse or your mate or your friend or your family, or the person, the significant other, or the people that you say you love, or the people that you're building a relationship with. Fight for those things. Learn to be someone's safe space, even if they're wrong. Doesn't mean that you justify and look over their wrongs, or be their safe space in those moments, even when they're wrong, and don't use it against them later. Don't use what they share with you during these moments of safety where they feel like they can share with you and open up, and then you throw it back in their face later and they're like, wait a minute. Let's not do that to people. Sometimes we get, especially as women, sometimes we gotta learn to shut up and be quiet. And it's like, you know what? I want to say something, but let me not say it right now because I might mess this up, right? And sometimes you realize that I saw this thing, and then I made a post on my IG, and it says, after certain, matter of fact, let me pull it up real quick. Guys, I need you to like this, share this out with your friends. Tell them to come on over here with us so they can get some of this good information. That's going to bless them. It says, after certain situations, you just don't feel the same about people anymore. After certain situations, and you know what those certain situations are. You know what those, like non-negotiables, this did it. You know those certain situations. After certain situations, you just don't feel the same about certain people anymore. And that's what can happen when you get into arguments and you say things you don't want, that you probably would have said a different way, or maybe not even said at all later. You would have handled things differently. But certain situations, after they happen, you just like, I don't look at people the same way I used to. I don't have that same honor. I don't have that same respect. I don't have that same reverence for this person. It's like, nah, things are really different. And you will know when that happens with whom it's going to happen to, right? So, we talked about this before about the silent treatment, but I got something else I'm going to share with you guys tonight that I learned in this book, about the silent treatment, right? We got to stop making pit stops. We got to stop making pit stops. We got to stop going back to what broke us. We got to stop going back to people who broke us. We got to stop making pit stops to who and what broke us. Stop going back to something because it seems familiar, or, well, at least I know this, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? At least I know how to handle this. I know how they're going to respond to that. No. Stop making pit stops. Stop going back to people that broke you. Stop going back to situations that broke you. Stop going back to things that did not build you up, that did not help you, that did not encourage you, that did not make you get better. Stop going back to those broken places because you are yet still broken. We have to get into the presence of God and allow him to heal us. We got to make sure we get the support systems around us so we can be healed, so we won't keep going back to things that actually broke us, going back to people who broke us. Stop making those pit stops. They become pit stops, and it's a pit is considered to be hell. Stop going back to the hell that you was praying and hoping and striving to get out of. Stop going back to the hell that you know that kept you unhappy and unfulfilled and not satisfied. Stop going back to pit stops. Stop making pit stops. Place yourself in a well of healthy people. Place yourself around a well of healthy people so you can grow. In a well, it's water. You become the seed. Let God shine his light. The word shine the light on you, so then you can start flourishing into a healthy tree. And so you can flourish into a healthy tree that's going to be rooted and planted by the rivers. So you can spring up a well of living water, right? So please make sure you're staying away from pit stops. And I just mixed like 3 or 4 scriptures all there together. I didn't give you the scripture, but it's scripture from various topics. So please make sure you always fact checking when somebody giving you the word. You can definitely go back and double check this 2 Samuel chapter 12 verses I gave you. Please always do that. We got to get out of holding spaces. We got to get out of holding places. We got to get out of holding selves that people places, mindsets, and situations keep us in. You got to get out of that holding cell. I wrote something down on my phone tonight, and I'm definitely sticking with that. One, I'm not going to let anybody mismanage my time that mismanages their own. There are some people who are really time wasters. There are some people who really don't take advantage of the time and space that they have right now. They'll say, oh, well, we can do it later, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, right? So that's the first thing. I stay away from time. If you're going to waste my time, if you mismanage your own time, you're not going to mismanage Seminate's time, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm not going to be in relationship or covenant with anybody who does not prioritize spending time or prioritize the relationship with me, right? And you have to understand, you have to make sure you have standards and boundaries in your life. So when someone crosses and you like, oh yeah, this is a check mark, and you make that known to people. If they continue to do it, they're just not somebody who is qualified to be in your life. Remember, you have to qualify the attraction. You have to qualify the attractions. We got to stop settling for short-term relationships and unavailable relationships. Stop settling for short-term relationships and unavailable relationships. And that means people are unavailable to build with you. People are unavailable to emotionally grow with you and build with you. People are unavailable spiritually and physically. They just don't have the time. They're not investing in the time. They're not investing in it mentally or emotionally. So stay away from people who are short-term relationship. I can't really see myself with this person in the next 6 months, let alone a year or more, right? So stop settling for short-term relationships for some temporary pleasure or some temporary likes or some temporary comments or some temporary, oh my God, y'all look good together or we look good together. Stop settling for the temporary satisfaction of a relationship that is not going to really manage or mount up to anything later on, right? And then stop settling for unavailable relationships where people are unavailable. They don't have time to talk to you, or they don't make time to talk to you. They don't have time to, be there for you when you need them, but you go out your way to be there for them when they need you. Stop settling for relationships like that. Stop settling for relationships that people are totally unavailable, right? Totally unavailable. Sometimes we're trying to help, we're trying to be there for others, and sometimes you never even get the help that you need from them. You can be so invested in the well-being of other people that sometimes you will neglect yourself because you want to just be that wonderful, wonderful friend to this person. Okay? Now, let's get into common toxic traits. Common toxic traits. So this is the book that I bought, and we're going to be doing a lot out of this book, How to Stop Being Toxic. I bought this maybe 2 months ago. And so I'm going to be doing a book study on this, really sharing it out, and sharing what I've learned, sharing my growth walk, sharing my success journey with you guys, my healing journey along the way, so you can see the stuff in real time. So here are some of the common toxic traits. I hope you screenshot the book. It's called How to Stop Being Toxic by Edward Clark. The first way, common toxic traits. You have manipulation. You have people who are dishonest and emotionally control you with what they want, right? People who are manipulative. And these are things you pray against. Father, keep me away from people who operate in manipulation. Keep me away from those type of people. Let me have a disdain and a dislike for them. Let my spirit be vexed when they come into my presence. Let me automatically discern when somebody is operating in a spirit of manipulation or trying to operate in a spirit of manipulation with me. Make me not want to talk to them. Let not my heart fall for them. Let my heart not be drawn to them, right? Constant negativity. If you know people who are constantly like negative, it's like, Lord, keep me away from them. Those who are negative give themselves away, right? They're negative. You know what they say, if it's negative or positive. All right. I talked to my mentor the other night. I haven't talked to Mr. Ray in some months. But he was like, Simon, you have to make this chart, right? This is one of the things he was suggesting I do. You got to make this chart. List on one side, what are some emotional deposits that brings you joy? And then on the other side, what are some emotional withdrawals that takes away your joy? And you need to start doing more of what is emotionally deposited, the things that emotionally deposit in your life, and do less of the things that are withdrawing from your life. So if you ever feel depleted, you ever feel hopeless, you ever feel like your joy is not there, you got to do more of what brings deposits and joy in your life, and you got to do less of what takes away from your life. Okay, so you know those people who are constantly negative, right? We know those people. So it's not like there's some type of, um um secret to that, right? Dishonesty, right? Dishonesty is like, according to the book, dishonesty like a virus in a relationship eats away at your trust. People who are dishonest is a toxic trait, right? And then you have to also discern, are they telling the truth or are they really lying to you, right? Can I handle the truth? Am I so used to people being dishonest with me that I think everything they say is dishonest, or because this happened to me in my past, or they probably bring it up, or it's just something that I would do, or something I'm currently doing, or something that I've done, right? So it makes me feel like, oh, they would do it too. So you have to make sure that you are asking the Lord, help me. Is this person really telling me something truthful or not truthful? And then govern yourselves accordingly. But dishonesty is definitely a toxic trait, and it's also a sin. Let's get that right. Codependency. I did a whole live on codependency, probably like 2019, 2018, 2017. I've been thinking in my head, I need to go and look for that video. But codependency that's a suffocating behavior that fosters unhealthy attachments to people. Codependency, where you feel like you can't do anything else without this other person, is an unhealthy attachment, and it's a toxic behavior. Anger and resentment. Unmanaged anger and simmering resentment leaves wounds that poison interaction. That you may not tell a person that you're angry with them, but they can feel your anger in the way you treat them, in the way you talk to them, in the way you respond to them. You may not tell people I resent you, but they can tell that you resent them by the way you treat them, the way you talk to them, the way you interact with them, the way you engage with them, the way you talk about them to other people. People can tell that even if you don't say it to them directly. Some psychological roots of being toxic. Here's a couple of psychological roots of being toxic. Unhealed pain and trauma. And I won't get into that. Everybody knows their unhealed pain and their unhealed trauma. I was talking to one of my therapists Thursday. My one that I have every Thursday. I'm so thankful for that lady. And you know what I would tell you guys is, like, talking to somebody, when it comes to therapy, it was taboo before, and now everybody's promoted therapy, right? But I've always had mentors in my life. I always had older women in my life. I always had people who could give me counseling, wise counseling, give me, advice from a experience level, a spiritual level, and just a regular. I don't know if that's a good idea to do or not, right? So I've always had it around. It wasn't in, I say probably like 3-4 years ago when I actually engaged in therapy full time. I had one maybe like 7-8 years ago, and she told me, she says, "You're angry." I was like, "No, I'm not." She said, "Yes, you're angry." That was she in the first house. I ain't going back to her, and I didn't. And so I think probably in 2020. 2020, 2021, that's when I really got serious about, okay, I really need to see a professional counselor, right? And so you will deal with those things. But what she said to me the other day is, she said, I was talking about unhealed pain and trauma, but she says, it's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I was like, I know, I got it. And she was telling me, she says, sometimes we can wake up angry, or sometimes we can wake up sad, or sometimes we can wake up low. Subconsciously, we are remembering the day or the month or the year that something happened to us, and subconsciously it's still stuck in our brains. And so we wake up reliving that, not even realizing we're reliving it. So she said, "Did anything happen to you in August?" I was like, no, there's a month that I can think of where things significantly happened to me in my life that I would think I would be upset or sad about, but I'm not. I don't. And of course, sitting in it on Thursday, I'm like, I wonder, did I feel that way, back then? So I'm very mindful of, okay, let me track how I'm feeling on certain days and writing it down, and then going saying, did something happen here? Like, Lord, did something happen here? Is my body really keeping the score of when this happens? My body really keeping the score of when this traumatic event happened in my life? And so my body and my brain and my actions and my deeds are responding to what happened to me X amount of time. So your body really does keep the score. The trauma, the pain, it stays in our subconscious if we don't work that stuff out. And then you have low self-esteem, right? Right. A lot of toxic behaviors are with people who have low self-esteem. They do not feel good about themselves. They feel better about other people. They feel like if they're attached to certain people or have certain things that's going to make them feel better about themselves. But even if you take away those things and if you take away those things or you keep those things, that doesn't affect how a person feels about themselves, because they still have to live with themselves, even if you're not there, even if they don't have those things, or if they have those things, because inanimate objects don't feel us. Other people will never be able to feel the place that only God can feel in your life. Other toxic traits or psychological roots of toxicity. Toxicity. Needing to feel superior, the fear of rejection, having difficulty with vulnerability. Low self-esteem can make vulnerability very difficult for people. Having low self-esteem can make vulnerability very difficult for people. Seeking validation through toxicity, right? Sometimes people will feel like, well, you know what I'm saying, if I'm with this person who was toxic, right, and I'm less toxic, I'll get validation with them, because it's like, at least I'm not as bad as them. At least I'm not doing these things. So people will go seek validation through toxicity. Individual low self-esteem may create external validation to feel good about themselves. This can lead to manipulative behavior, seeking constant praise, or needing to be the center of attention. That is seeking validation through toxicity. And then projecting negativity, that this person feels negative about themselves, and so they often project negativity about other people or other projects that they got going on. Another toxicity root is the fear of intimacy, right? The fear of intimacy. They don't really like to get close to people, and it could be sometimes a physical type of closeness that they refuse to allow people to get close to them, or sometimes it just be emotional or closeness that they don't let people get close to them emotionally, because it's that fear of intimacy. Lack of empathy. When people lack empathy, they are self-centered, they're insensitive. Again, manipulation comes up. They have difficult with apologies, and then they lack compassion. These people are it's like they have become hardened. Their hearts are hard, right? Don't let your heart harden. When it comes to lack of compassion, the maze becomes a solitary journey, devoid of the support system crucial for navigating life's challenges. If you ever met people who they really don't have people around that they can talk to and open up and share with, you like, man, it gotta be tough when you going through something and there's nobody around that you can talk to. There's nobody around that can give you some sound, wise advice. Sometimes people are around a toxic village. They got a system, they got people around them, they have supports around them, but they support them in their toxicity. They're supporting them in their dysfunction. They're supporting them in their wrongs. They're not supporting them in making better decisions. They're not supporting them in making healthy decisions. They're not supporting them in getting better. They're not supporting them to grow, right? So you got to make sure even the system of people, the support system that you have with people, that is ones that's helping you grow and helping you face your challenges head on, so you can overcome them and become the better version of yourself that you're looking for anyway. Another one of these toxic roots of toxicity, it will be unhealthy attachments. You got to look and see it. That's why, again, talk about qualify the attachment, qualify the attraction. Who is attracted to you and why? What type of person are they, right? Why are they attracted to me? What do they want from me, right? Emotional manipulation. This is not a root of toxicity, but emotional manipulation, right? This is another consequence of when you have unhealthy attachments. When you are attached to people unhealthily, it causes you to have there's emotional manipulation that happens. Unmet emotional needs can lead to tactics like guilt tripping, playing the victim, or constant seeking reassurance to get those needs fulfilled. Excessive focus on the other person and an unhealthy attachment can lead to neglecting personal growth. And I can speak from this from personal experience where I have neglected myself to try to feed into be there and to overcompensate and just try to pour into other people. And it's like, yo, are you doing all this for somebody else who, one, is not even receptive really to what you're doing? You could be using that energy that you're trying to pull into other people. You can use it to pull into yourself. So don't be manipulated emotionally by people that you have unhealthy attachments with. And so we go to the personal impact of what toxic traits and toxic behavior can have on people. The personal relationship, it affects you personally, is one. It's emotionally draining. I don't know if you ever been around people who just drain you when you talk to them. It's always fussing, it's always chaotic, it's always something negative. That will emotionally drain you, right? It creates an emotional taxing environment. That's why you have to, and I would encourage you guys to chart down what are the things that emotionally fill me up, and then what are the things that emotionally deplete me. And you have to do more what fills you up and stay away from what depletes you. The other personal impact that toxic behaviors and toxic patterns can have on a person personally is that low self-esteem. When you are connected to people who have toxic behaviors, you will start second guessing yourself because they don't receive you, because they do things that are wrong, they do things that are unhealthy. You're like, oh my God, like, am I so bad? But what happens is their toxic behaviors is eating at your self-worth, it's eating at your self-esteem, and eventually you have low self-esteem because you got hooked up with energy vampires, you got hooked up with self-esteem vampires, you got hooked up with people who did not love themselves. Another thing I run on my phone is that I will not be broken by people that did not build me. I will not be broken by people who did not help build me up. Do not get hooked up with people who don't know your journey, ain't been a part of your journey, ain't helped you during your journey, but they want to tear you down from where you are. Stay away from people who will emotionally drain you, who will emotionally drain your mind and make you feel like you have low self-esteem. That's the personal impact that they can have. I don't know if you ever met somebody who was vibrant and upbeat and outgoing, and then they get with somebody and they just like change. You're like, what's up with you? It's emotionally draining, and it causes them to have lack of self-esteem or low self-esteem because they're hooked up with a toxic person. And then the other one is strained relationships. When you have people who show you toxic behavior, and the reason why I got the book, because I was trying to identify the toxic behaviors in other people, not realizing that, you know what I'm saying, I got to check my own toxic behavior. What it said is that when you're around people who exhibit toxic behaviors, you pick up on those things. You see that in real time. You understand how it operates. And if we don't put things in place, we start taking on those habits and then doing them to other people. I saw that in real time last night when a situation happened with me. And then when I responded the way I responded, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what somebody did to me. Oh my gosh, that's how somebody treated me. Oh my gosh, that was their response to me. And I'm like, I'm not being that. I'm not doing it. So I had to come back. I quickly came back and say, listen, I think it was this morning. Hey, listen, I apologize for doing this to you. I know the feeling. I know, and I don't know if I said this, but I knew how that felt. I knew how that felt. And I was like, you know what? Listen, I apologize. I'm not trying to be whatever to you. Let me just clarify this, right? So you will have strained relationships. Toxic behaviors erode trust and create a climate of fear or resentment or suspicion. So when you don't get healed, one, from your own past traumas, you will start bringing all of your toxic behaviors into other relationships. And it will cause you to mistrust somebody that you really should be trusting. It will cause you to mistrust somebody who hasn't done anything to lose your trust or make you feel some kind of way besides the things that you got going on in your own mind. The professional impact of toxic behaviors. One is decreased productivity, right? For those of you know, I did a new teacher series, coaching and mentoring and doing professional developments for new teachers, specifically in the charter schools, because that's why I've spent predominantly most of my teaching experience is in charter schools. I said 8, 10. So have charter schools, have public schools. What I found in charter schools, because charter schools only have to be 50% certified, the other half of your staff are usually non-certified people, and it causes a strain on one, the behavior, it causes a strain on the morale, it causes a strain on the instruction if you don't have those people, the right people in place. So decreased productivity is a sign of toxic behaviors and toxic patterns in your professional life. It can cause an increase in conflict with people because you have certain people over here that's trying to get the job done, that's doing their very best, and you have people on the other side that are just doing everything to tear the morale and the company or the organization down. And so it increases conflict, is a high turnover rate. One of the worst things that can happen is that you have to keep training people over and over and over again. That's why schools don't like it when they have such high turnover rates, because it's like, now I got to get another person acclimated to this building and to our students and to our community and how we do things, right? And so people don't want a high turnover rate, right? You don't even want a high turnover rate in your relationships. I don't want to have to keep learning somebody new. One of the things that most people say, and I had a conversation with one of my girls today, she was saying, like, I don't want to start dating again. I'm like, girl, listen, I understand. You don't want to have to keep going through the same question and talking about the same thing and getting to know somebody else. You don't want that high turnover rate. I want to get with one person and stick with my person, right? You don't want that high turnover rate, but those are the things that affect not just professionally, but also personally, right? There are types of toxic personality, I said personalities, I would say, that you can look for. I'll only mention 3 real quick because I want to go to the next thing that I was talking about. We can come back, and it's so much stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you guys out the book, but there are 3 specific types of personalities that's attached to toxicity. That's outlined in the book. One is a manipulator, and we've been talking about manipulation a lot. And I think I'm gonna really do a heavy study on manipulation and what it manipulation originate from, and what does the root words and the suffix and the prefix, what does that actually mean, right? The manipulator, the victim, and the narcissist, right? And we hear a lot of people talking about the narcissist, but I mean, there's so much to that. And I would say study to show yourself approved. Study to show yourself approved. The manipulator is a master at weaving toxic webs and uses dishonesty and emotional control to achieve their own desires. The narcissist embodies a toxic personality characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for affirmation, and a lack of empathy for others. The narcissist has an inflated sense of self-importance. They really think highly, highly, highly of themselves. They have a deep need for admiration, and they have a lack of empathy for other people. So it's all about them. They don't care about how you feel. It's out, this is my show, and this is what we're going to do. And then the victim, the perpetual victim, shrinks responsibility and fosters negativity by constantly framing themselves as a target of misfortune. They are not accountable. They don't take responsibility for anything that they do. It's everybody else's fault. That's the victim mentality. So how do you identify these toxic behaviors? 1, in yourself, and then 2, in others. And then we're going to wrap this thing on up tonight. And so personal patterns. Personal patterns are repeated behaviors that create negativity and hinder your well-being or your overall well-being of being around other people, right? So personal patterns is, what are some of the behaviors that I exhibit that impede on my well-being as a person and also my well-being with other people? How well do I relate to other people? What are some of these patterns that create friction in myself, within myself, this inner struggle, or then the outer struggle that I have with other people? So some of the patterns that you can identify in you, in yourself, as well as what I have been doing to identify in myself is, 1, notice the aftermath. Toxic patterns leave a trail of negative emotions like guilt and frustration and resentment, right? You feel those things when you do certain things with yourself or when you do things with other people. You feel all of that. The all or nothing trap. Do you think to these extremes is either all of this is what's going to happen, or this is what's going to happen? You have 2 opposite extremes, right? Toxic behaviors often involve rigid mindsets and leave no room for healthy compromises. This is it, or it's nothing at all. right? And then they have the blame game. Do you find yourself constantly pointing fingers at other people because of the problems that you have? And do you take responsibility for it, or do you not take responsibility for it? Those are some of the toxic patterns that we have in our own personal lives. And of course, you can look at this from the perspective of other people as well. How do you spot these patterns in other people? They're chronic drama. There are some people who, excuse me, love drama, right? Some people love drama. If you're educating, you watching, there are going to be some students that you teach who actually thrive off of drama in the classroom. And you can tell that that's something that they have been brought up in, because they don't know how to even sit in a classroom without having to argue or pick or go tell somebody what somebody is doing. They run when they see trouble, or things getting stirred up. They always know what's going on, right? That's the chronic drama. And not just students, but you also see adults doing this. The passive aggressive one. I used to be very much like that. The passive aggressive one. Does someone express anger or frustration indirectly through their sarcasm, through their backhanded, or through these little, jokes or little comments that they may say on the sly? That's passive aggression. And then you have the energy vampire. When you come around them, it's like your energy is zapped. They automatically start talking about something negative, and it's like, oh my God, I can't be around them, right? So when we talk about relationship patterns, now how does these toxic traits affect relationships, right? The first one is it's a one-sided dynamic. You have one person putting in all the work and all the effort, and the other person is just taking and not giving anything back. That's when you know that there's emotional withdrawals being made out your life, and there's no deposits being made with that person. The second one is jealousy and possessiveness. Does someone feel like they own you? Do they feel like nobody else can be around you, right? Do they feel like, they make these unreasonable asks or expectations of you? Like, there's jealousy and possessiveness. Then you have constant criticizing or belittling. Belittling people or constantly criticizing a person is a toxic trait. You don't want to be around anybody that's always telling you how wrong you are. You can't never do anything right. They're always hounding you and clowning you on the stuff you're doing wrong. Like, stay away from them. That is constant criticizing and belittle. You should build people up. You should build your children up. You should build your spouse up. You should build your friends up. You should be building people up. Have people in your life that build you up and not tear you down. Just because you've seen it done with somebody else you may say you love, it could be from a parent. You may have seen your parents raise. That's maybe how you have been raised. But sometimes we got to realize that even the way our parents raised us may not always be the right way, right? There are certain things I've seen with both of my parents that's like, I don't want that for my life, right? So I'm making different decisions, right? So you have to make sure that you are not around people who are constantly criticizing or belittling you. Another one is stonewalling and silent treatments. I said I was going to come back to that. Stonewalling and silent treatments is a toxic behavior that impacts relationships that you have with other people. What does that mean? That means healthy communication involves open and honest dialogue. Does your partner shut down on you? Does your friend shut down on you? Does your friend or the person that you're in a relationship, does they withdraw when there's a conflict? They like, nope, I'm not talking about this. They refuse to communicate with you. That is a toxic trait. It's called stonewalling or the silent treatment. It's a form of emotional manipulation, and it's a very much toxic behavior. Anybody that stonewalls you, anybody gives you silent treatment, it is a toxic behavior, and it's emotional manipulation. Then you have gaslighting. This involves denying or twisting reality to manipulate someone else's perspective. Does your partner, does your friend make you question your own memories or your own sanities? Gaslighting is a profoundly damaging form of emotional abuse. Do they try to make you feel like you crazy for the things that you say, like, I didn't do that? And you like, come on, I know you did that. I know you said that. Controlling behaviors. Do you have people that try to control your behavior? Partners should respect each other's autonomy. Does your partner try to control who you see? Do they can try to control who you hang out with? Do they try to control what you wear, how much you spend your money? That's called a toxic power play, right? So how we can recognize that in relationships. Then you have the work-related patterns, which some of you may be able to relate to. I won't get into all of this tonight because I'm definitely going to go deep diving into this when it for a new teacher professional development. I'm gonna do that probably one day this week. But spotting toxic individuals, you have the gossip monger who knows everything about everybody's life. Everybody's about their personal business. They can't even get their work done and their job done because they're so worried about what everybody else got going on. And you would think, like, if you see this person talking about one person, why would you constantly go and tell them about your business or tell them about something else, right? If you know a person that gossips, stop talking to them, because eventually you're going to be the person or the thing that they gossip about next. Then you have the credit hog. They take full credit for everything and ain't did jack. The person who takes full credit for everything and ain't did jack. Then you have the bully, right? And I was looking up words the other day to kind of hit this word home, because after a while you become sensitized to certain words. Picking on, getting into fights, and making people feel bad. They had to use the word bully, right? And there was a big whole campaign for that. But now, really, when you say bully, it's like people have become desensitized to the word bully. Seriously, right? It's antagonist, a gangster, an enemy, an abuser. It's oppressor. It's a persecutor. When you start looking at the depths of what this person does, you realize, oh, this is not something I should just take casually. The slacker, right? They avoid work. They avoid responsibility of anything. This is the slacker, right? And then you have the negative Nancy, the negative Ned. So I mean, good gracious, everything is negative. Nothing satisfies them, nothing appeases. And I'm thinking, why don't you just leave this place, leave this person, leave this facility, leave the family, right? Just go and find you a group of people that's gonna be who you need them to be, and you won't have to complain so much. And then you have the toxic team dynamic. So if you're working in a team, you work in a company, organization, ministry, unhealthy competition. Ain't nothing wrong with competition, but when it becomes dogmatic and it breeds animosity, it hinders excessive competition. It will breed animosity and make you not like the people that you're supposed to be working with. Micromanagement, when you got leaders that try to micromanage you, it was just like, oh my goodness. Lack of communication, chronic blame game, unrealistic workload and deadlines, or other toxic traits that will really, really hinder you from having healthy relationships. But it will foster these very dogmatic relationships. It will foster these very toxic relationships. So we need to put boundaries in place, right? And something that I read about boundaries the other day that's like, wow, I like the way they put it, right? Toxic behaviors require boundaries, which we can move forward by exploring the roles of boundaries. Now, check this out. Boundaries are essentially guidelines for how you want to be treated. They act like a fence around your emotional well-being, keeping negativity at bay. So a boundary helps you stay well, even if it makes people feel uncomfortable, even when people feel like, well, you don't got to do all that. You know what it takes to make you feel good. That's why you have to make sure you write down what are your emotional deposits, and then what are your emotional withdrawals. What are the things that I do that makes me feel better? What are the things that do that makes me not feel so good? So I got to make sure that I have boundaries in place to make sure that my deposits keep being on the rise, right? I want to overflow in deposits. I want to overflow in healthy thoughts. I want to overflow in joy. I want to overflow in healthy relationships. And I want to decrease that toxicity and those things that bring me down as much as I can. So what are some boundaries, or why boundaries are needed? Because sometimes people don't know why they're needed. And I said this before, when you don't know the reason why something is created, abuse will happen. I think this ties into perfectly what I'm about to read you guys out my phone about some I wrote, but then it just left me. So it's like, okay, maybe not. We'll come back to that in a second. But why boundaries important? One is protection. Toxic people can be very draining, so you protect yourself. It increases your boundaries important, so you can increase your self-esteem and keep that high. Why boundaries important? Because you need clarity and control. We have to understand that we can't control everything, but there's certain things I can control. I can control you from coming into my personal space. I can control what you're going to say to me. I can control, right, the access that I give you to my life so you can say or do something to me, right? We can control those things. And then, of course, you get healthy relationships when you put boundaries in place. You're taking care of yourself when you put boundaries in place. Now, okay, you're like, okay, well, how can I set these boundaries up? What? One, you got to know yourself. You got to communicate clearly on what your expectation and what your boundaries are. So when people step over them, you can just let them know, hey, this is a boundary I have set. And if you've already told them that and they keep doing it, they don't really care. That's somebody you gotta slide on out your life. How to set up boundaries, you got to be consistent. If I say this is a boundary for me, this is something that I don't want you to overstep, this is something that kind of triggers me, you got to be consistent in that, because as long as you're consistent with yourself, people are going to show up. My old therapist, Dr. Wash, she would always say, Simone, the more you change, the people around you going to change. The more you change, the people around you going to change. So you cannot change anybody, but the more you change, the people around you will change. They got to adapt to the new person that you are becoming. You have to adapt to the new person that you are, and that's what we're forever changing. And my mentor, the older white guy, told me this other day, Mr. Ray, he says people change, but people don't change. You have some people who change, but some people don't change. And he was like, we always wishing for, what if our life was this and what if our life was that? He says, but you got to play the cards, the hand that you were dealt. You got to play the cards that's in your hand. And sometimes we don't have the winning hand at the moment, but you still got to play them. He says the worst of times that I went through in my life is set me up for my future. He says, and it didn't feel like it at the time, but just know the things that you're going through right now is setting you up for your future. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you got to show grace to yourself. It's easy for us to come and encourage other people and, show grace to yourself. And so this morning, when I got up, I was reading. It was like, when you're going through a tough time, when unfortunate things happen, you have a setback, you're not doing whatever you say you set out to do, or what are the things you need to be doing. Talk to yourself like you would talk to somebody else who's coming to you for advice because they're down. What would you say to them? Would you say mean things? No, you're going to speak life to them. So you have to do the same thing when you get down and things are not going well. Don't start beating yourself up. You got to give yourself grace, and you got to talk to yourself just the way if your good girlfriend or your homeboy will call you and they want you to encourage them, or you send them behind some a space and you're encouraging other people. What would you say to them? Say that to yourself. Say that to yourself. And if you don't have compassion, if you don't have empathy, and you like, oh, well, I'm just tell it to you, like it is, and don't even think about how it may make them feel, you ain't healed. That's a toxic trait. You ain't healed. That's a toxic trait. How to set up boundaries. Focus on the positive. You got to respect other people's boundaries as well, right? And one of the things I'm learning is like, okay, if this is their boundary, then let me make sure I respect it. But sometimes people don't even have boundaries. They just say that in the moment because like, I don't want to deal with you, right? So respect other people's boundaries. If they tell you, well, these are certain things that I don't like, or these things that I have put in place for my own self, we respect those boundaries, right? And you got to start small. Do not become overwhelmed. All right, some of you might have to go watch the video 2-3 times because, like, she shared a lot of information tonight, and it's gonna be time stamped, so you can go click on what you need. But start small, focus on the positive, be patient. The results that you want, it's gonna take some time, right? Even when people who are trying to like be losing weight, right? You didn't get the weight all of a sudden, or sometimes you can pack on pounds really quick because I can easily lose weight and I can easily gain weight, right? And so you have to make sure that you are being patient with yourself. The thing about gaining weight is that you can do that with your eyes closed. Losing weight, it takes a bit more work than it does to actually gain it. So you got to make sure that you're patient with yourself, and it's absolutely okay to say no. And sometimes you got to start small. There was a request to me the other day, and I was like, I can't do it. And I won't go into specifics of what I said. I just can't do it. Like, no. And at first I felt bad about it, but then like after a while I was like, okay, and I moved on, right? Sometimes it's okay to say, no, I cannot do that. I already have enough on my plate. I already got enough going on. No, I'm sorry, I cannot do that, right? So remember, it's okay to say no. And again, remember when you are respecting other people's boundaries, how do I respect other people's boundaries? One, listen to them. Don't listen to respond, but listen to understand. Listen to understand, what are they saying? And what they're saying sometimes is what they're not saying. Because again, some people don't know how to be vulnerable. They will avoid the real conversation, tell you a whole bunch of other stuff. So, excuse me. Actively listen to them. Share non-judgmental communication, right? Try to comfort people and offer people as much empathy and sympathy that you want. Respect their no. When someone tells you no, respect their no. This may not be the time. This may be too much of them. Just respect their no. And you may not understand it. You may be trying to fight against, because I can very much be like that. But then I realized, like, today in church, I mean, the word was really good. And while I was listening, I was taking notes on my phone. Something came to me, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the prodigal son. That he left. He took his inheritance. He left home. He went and squandered all his money. He had to live with the pigs. He was just living like a peasant instead of living like a royal son. And in the mess, in his mess, in the field pen with pigs, it says, and then he came to himself. And I wrote down, and she came to herself. Sometimes you got to get in such a low place. Sometimes you have to be knocked down so many times. Sometimes you have to be rejected from people to realize, oh my God, let me get myself back up. Like, and she came to herself. She realized, oh, I'm better than this. Oh, this situation right here ain't going to turn me down. Oh, I should have never even been in this situation anyway. Oh, they did what to me? Why did I even allow this to happen? And she came to herself. And he came to himself. At some point, you got to come to yourself and realize, oh, I am that girl. Oh, I am that guy. Oh, I am that ish. And she came to herself. Oh, I am better than this. Oh, I'm going to get better than this. Oh, I'm worthy of this. Right? And she came to herself. Pay attention to the cues that people tell you. Do they get uncomfortable when you talk about certain things? Are they kind of like hesitant? Do they pull back? This is how you can respect other people's boundaries. Ask for clarification. When you don't understand something or you're not sure, ask for clarification. And for me, I will ask question after question after question. My mama gets she gets pretty annoyed with me because I ask a lot of questions. My second oldest brother knows I ask a lot of questions. My oldest brother knows that I ask a lot of questions, right? Because I'm trying to get clarity. I'm trying to understand. It's not because I don't believe somebody. It's not because I'm trying to check and make sure they're telling me the truth. No, I just need clarity. So I'll keep asking until I have all the answers that I need to make informed decisions, right? Because sometimes we make decisions off of stuff that we assume, but we never ask somebody. Don't assume something about somebody when you can just definitely ask them, right? Don't assume something about somebody when you can ask them. And then some people are like, oh, I just know they're going to lie. You don't know that. Ask for clarity. And if it bothers you that much, or if you feel like, oh, they're going to just lie, then don't let it bother you. Right? If you feel like if it's to a place where you like, I'm not going to ask them anyway, well, then don't bring it up. Don't use it against them if you're not even willing to ask the question, to clarify, make sure you got the right answer. Be mindful of your space. Sometimes people don't like personal space. Be mindful how close you get to somebody, especially if you're in like a dating type of situation. If they tell you they don't want to kiss you or they don't want to be that close, don't try to like take a kiss from them or try to like be all up in their face or, rub on it. Don't do that to people, right? Because you are not respecting their boundaries and they probably won't talk to you again. Assume good intentions about people. Until they prove you wrong, assume good intentions about people. Until they prove you wrong, assume good intentions about people. Respect people's time and also let people respect your time. That's why I said one of my things is I would not allow somebody to waste my time I would not allow somebody who wastes their own time to waste my time. No, thank you. And then remember that people's boundaries can change. So maybe there was a boundary that they have in place today, but then, next month or next week, depending on what work they've done, it may change. You have to respect that, though, that wasn't a boundary before, but now it is. Or that used to be something that was a boundary, but now they kind of loose because you may see it with somebody else. You're like, well, they told me. And it's like, well, that's not my boundary anymore. And sometimes people have certain boundaries with certain people. And I would say you just have to learn how to honor that. You can ask clarifying question. Why is that? Did I do something to make you feel this way that you have to have this boundary? And if they don't want to talk about it, then you just, you take it for what it is. Journaling. This is the last thing I would say to you guys. The power of journaling. I'm a writer. Those of you who know that, I self-published 3 books in 7 months. I published 3 books in 7 months. And then the second and third book I did 30 days apart from one another. Now I was working on them simultaneously, but I did them 30 days apart from each other. To this day, up until 2024, I have 13 books out, and I haven't wrote or published anything since 2021. So it's been a 3-year period since I published anything. But when I come back, I'm gonna come back strong. And I'm gonna come back heavy, and I'm gonna come back many. But journaling helps individuals. The power of writing your thoughts down. It may not be on a piece of paper. It could be, in your phone, right? I have a lot of important things in my phone when it comes to notes. Like the notes part of my phone is very valuable to me. Journaling, the power of journaling. Journaling helps you express your thoughts and feelings in a productive way, and it helps you notice your emotions. And so you can write stuff down and you can go back and read like, oh my God, I was thinking like that. I felt like that, right? Versus being upset in the moment and you want to send these very things to a person. Write it down. Maybe take some time to think about, okay, I'm gonna send this in 24 hours. I'm gonna send this in 1 hour after I go read this, right? There's many times I recorded so many messages that I never sent to people because once I listened to it, I was like, you know what? Nah, I better not send that. That ain't a good look. That don't even sound, you know what I'm saying? That sound very mean or angry or whatever, right? So journaling helps you process your emotions and you get to see the patterns. Okay, I done felt this way talking to this person. Oh, I felt this again this other time with this person. It's like, yo, why do I keep having the same emotions with the same person or the same situation? You have to realize, okay, do I need to remove myself because this is a toxic situation, or do I need to address some things that they need to change or they need to make some amends because we keep going back to the same place? And if you do address something and someone does not change, it's because they don't care and they don't plan on changing, and you're gonna have to remove yourself. So journaling helps you express your emotions and you find those patterns within those emotions, within those writing things that you're writing down, right? So if you ever been, I say this for a significant relationship or any relationships, you have to give yourself grace. And you have to really say, I was doing the best I could with what I had at the time. And some people, you have to learn to forgive them and say they were doing the best they could at the time that y'all engaged with each other. They were doing the best they could. I wanted them to act different. I want them to have more. I want them to know better, but they did the best they could at the time that you engaged with them. The very best they could. And some people say, oh no, they could have did better. They didn't. So you have to say they did the best they could with what they had at the time. And I know that what they had at the time is not what I need. And so I won't go back. I won't make a pit stop because they've already shown me that the best they had is not worthy of what I need. The best that they had is not worthy of what I need. You got to remember that in dating, it's a learning process, right? And people say dating is for data. You're collecting data on people. Do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this somebody that I can see myself building with? Or this is somebody like, no, I cannot see myself building with? Do I like this character trait in this person? Or do I not like this character trait? Did I just learn something from this person? Or did I not learn something from a person, right? So dating is collecting data. It's a learning process. And if you break up with somebody, when you break up with somebody, it's not failure. When you break up with somebody or somebody breaks up with you, it's not failure. It's an opportunity for growth. When you break up with somebody or somebody breaks up with you, it's not a failure. It's an opportunity for growth. How can I grow from this situation? Here are a couple things you can say when it comes to your ex relationships that did not work. And if this is really true for you, you can stand in your truth. I did not give up on that relationship. Did you stand in it? What people say, 10 toes down. Did you stand in it? Stand in it. And if you did, you can say, I did not give up on that relationship. And when you realize you've done all, you said all, you have done what you knew to do, and it still did not work, it is definitely an opportunity for growth. And you can say, I did not give up on that relationship. Another thing you can say to yourself is, I'm very proud of how deeply or how deep I love this person. You can really say, I am proud of the way I love in this situation. You know, some people say, I gave my all, I did all of this and blah, blah. You can say, I'm proud of the way I love in this situation. And we can always measure and see who do we really love and who do we not really love. Who did I really ride for and who did I not really ride for? You will be able to understand, you will be able to measure that and say, I really love them deeply. And you will know who you actually love deeply. Who you said you love deeply and who you actually love deeply sometimes can be two different things. Another thing is I'd rather be with someone who wants to fight for this relationship. If you're the only person, if it was one-sided, if it was imbalanced, you can say, listen, I'd rather be with somebody who want to fight for this relationship too, who want to fight for this friendship too, who want to fight for this business too. I want to be with people who want to fight for the relationship, not people who fight against a relationship. Because again, when you got somebody that's fighting against a relationship, you can see how deeply they really loved you or how deeply they did not love you. And then you can simply say, you know, you think about the breakup. Me and my partner, we were not compatible for one another. We just were not suitable or suited for one another. Maybe they wasn't a bad person. They just wasn't good for you. Y'all were not compatible. And then sometimes you have to realize that if you really were a good person and you really, you know, you really gave your all and you was like, yo, you know, I was good to them or they were good to me and it's hurting you. You can say, I know this is hard for my partner too, because sometimes you may not talk to the person anymore. You may see them, you know, moving on, talking to other people, living their best life, doing whatever. But you can say, they love me. I know this is hard for them too. You know, they love me. It's hard for them too. They cared for me. This is hard for them too. And so you have to understand why it's hard for both of us. You got to do your own personal work so you can come out of that hurt being better and not bitter. And so listen, I love you guys today. It has been a pleasure to sit up here and talk to you guys for an hour and 20 minutes. Remember, I told you my content is for now and for later. Some of you can watch this later and say, ooh, I needed this for now. Guys, God will talk to you in so many different ways if you cultivate a relationship with him. I have these 5 obituaries. Nice obituaries, right? This was my stepdad's son. He passed away in church September 5th, 2021. And then my stepdad, he passed away March 9th, 2023. So less than 2 years after his son, youngest son, passed away. She was one of the mothers at the church I was attending for a while. Her sister, she passed away September 20. I think she maybe died in July 2022. And the funeral was in 2020, September. And this is Miss Doris. I shared her story, something that she shared to me. When I was living in Charlotte, I would go to intercessory prayer on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 p.m. and 8 to 9 a.m. Wasn't a big crowd at all, maybe 5 people there. Praise the Lord. And I remember one day I was leaving out of church and we were sitting in the parking lot and I was going home. You know, I was going back to do my thing. And she looked at me and said, you belong in the house of the Lord. And sometimes we thinking it's these massive words, you're going to fall out and you pass out, but death and life are in the power of the tongue and we eat the fruit thereof. Some people say, oh, words don't bother me, but the reason why people have low self-esteem and they have low self-worth is because somebody has said something to them that now they believe about themselves. And that's why the inner dialogue, what we say to ourselves, is so important. If someone has said something negative about you or against you, you start speaking the opposite and affirming yourself inwardly. So then subconsciously you can start believing it, and then you can start thinking it, and you can start behaving in that way. But a lot of people go to church because they have the minister or the pastor speaking words of edification that's going to build them up. They're speaking words that's going to give them hope. They're speaking words that's going to give them life. They're speaking words that's going to give them, a renewed energy. It's going to give them a renewed mindset that this is going to work out for me. I can go out and I can do it right. It's words that people are speaking. So don't ever negate the fact when people are speaking into your life. Make sure they're speaking life and not death to you. Think about people who are speaking into your life that give you emotional deposits and not emotional withdrawals. And you have to be the first person that get up in the morning and speak to yourself. We're going to talk about the power of affirmations and declarations. I told you guys in 2018, 19, when I was doing affirmations, had those things I was saying I wasn't living out. But the more I said it, the more my life started changing. The more I started doing things that align with the things I was saying every day. You have to speak life to yourself. You have to speak affirmative words to yourself. You have to declare good things over your life. And you got to guard people who are speaking negative against you. Don't let nobody come to you and say nothing crazy to you. But that's what Miss Doris said to me. She says to me, she said, you belong in the house of the Lord. And I had a small group. I was the host. I would host them in my house. And Miss Doris and Miss Rochelle and I can't think of that. I can see her face right now. These older women would come. I would host them in my home. And it was called Triad. Parents, students, and teachers working together, right? That was the first small group I was a part of in church. And then when I moved from Charlotte, I just started doing the prayer calls and stuff. But eventually I started doing exactly what was planted back in Charlotte. And when I went to minister last year to Charlotte, I was asking for her. And it was like, oh, she got sick. She moved back to Baltimore, where she's from, with her daughter. And, she's been really sick. I sent her a message one day, but I meant to send it to another Doris, and I never followed back up with her. But Miss Doris passed in March, and I went to her service. It was at Green Funeral Home on York Road in Baltimore. This is her obituary. They fancy these days. And I remember I sat back there in the section, a row all by myself. And as it was going on, the Lord says, you're going to be back in this same place, same space before the summer is out. And I'm just like, man. And it took me to a thought, took me to a person. I just started praying. And surely what he said to me came to pass. Before the summer is out, I sat in a funeral home with somebody who had passed away. And God spoke to me today while I was in service about something that caused me to cry tears. And so I'm sharing these things about toxic behaviors and building good relationships because we want to make sure that we are honoring the time that we have with people on this earth. We want to make sure that we're building these healthy relationships while people can appreciate who we are. They can appreciate the newness and the new start and the forgiveness. Because when people are gone, you don't get to rebuild that. You don't get to say, oh, these are things that I should have did. No, let's do it now. So the people that's left in your life, build those healthy relationships. Those people left in your life, get rid of the toxicity and the negativity in your life. So then you could be an asset to them and not a liability. And so I prayed this morning, tonight, that this has helped you. This morning, this has helped you. And that we can walk away being better people, implement this stuff in our lives so we can be helpful to people and not a hindrance to people. We can be helpful to people and not allow our deeds to be a reason to cause people to blaspheme against the Lord. And so I love you guys. Today be blessed in Jesus' name. Share this out with your friends. Invite them to come on. Let them know that the student teacher was here. We'll speak to you later. Peace.